Hello again, everybody. This is Craig Evans of Autism Hangout, and welcome to this Autism Hangout Beyond the Headlines report. Today we're going to talk about sensory processing issues, and today's guest literally wrote the book on the subject. The book is called Raising a Sensory Smart Child. Author Lindsey Biel is an occupational therapist in New York City, and any week of the year Lindsey could be busy with clients or workshops or seminars or conferences, even out snorkeling somewhere. But fortunately for us, she's taking 10 minutes this morning to talk to us about what's current in the field of sensory processing issues and preparing your child for a successful school year. Welcome, Lindsey. I love having you back.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Well, you're out there so much educating people as to what sensory processing issues are, and I know that you keep evolving, you keep learning things, and you can't write a book every 10 minutes. So what I'm hoping we can talk about today is what is new in the field of sensory processing, and then directly applicable, how can we help our kids that are going back to school this time of year?
Well, thinking about what's new, you're right, first of all, I do learn something new every time I'm with one of my young clients. You mentioned something about snorkeling, and I've been doing a lot of swimming pool snorkeling with an 11-year-old girl with autism. I wanted to teach her breath regulation because when she gets dysregulated, she just starts hyperventilating, and it just increases her heart rate,
yeah.
and it's just a real central nervous system overload for her. She just loves it, and she's picked up on it so quickly, and she loves diving down deep so she can get she can get really good deep pressure. Taking the theory of sensory integration and bringing it out into the community, bringing it out to the swimming pools, getting away from the tabletop activities and getting out there and getting it in naturalistic settings. It's one thing to do some deep touch pressure brushing on a child, but quite another to empower that child to obtain this needed input for themselves. So that's a big thing. And the other big thing is that it's still under consideration as an official diagnosis with the American Psychiatric Association. It will certainly be listed as a symptom of autism and autism spectrum disorders in the new edition that's coming out in, I guess, 2013. And sensory processing disorder is being considered as a distinct diagnostic category.
Yeah, we had talked about that before in your webinar. And by the way, for you folks at Autism Hangout that haven't seen it yet, there is a webinar that Lindsey and I did a while back, but it was extremely informative on not only the definition of sensory processing disorders, but how it's distinctly different in many cases from autism. I want to jump right into the subject matter here because I realize there's a lot of people sending their kids back to school. And as much as we would like to think that our teachers are very enlightened about things like sensory processing disorders, the truth of the matter is they really aren't. What can parents do to not only help their kids, but help teachers learn more about sensory processing and how to succeed with it?
Okay, well, let's start with getting your child ready. And this is a child, no matter what degree sensory processing challenges interfere with their ability to enjoy going to school. You know, going to school for the first time for new students, or returning after a long school break, or even a short school break if his child is in a 12-month program, is really frightening. For kids it's exciting, but it's also really frightening. There can be new faces, new places, new environments, new academic challenges. So it behooves us to really prepare them for that. And one of the keys is, over any kind of break, but especially the longer summer break, there's a tendency to let go of the normal routines. It's like, oh, it's summer, you can go to sleep an hour later, you can sleep late, you can wake up a little bit later, and that's great, and it seems like really fun to us, but the kids that I work with really need that routine and predictability and familiarity. You want to start now about 10 minutes a night, going to bed 10 minutes a night earlier, and waking up 10 minutes earlier each morning. School supplies. You do want to let your child take part in selecting school supplies. A lot of parents are finding that they do best shopping on the internet for these things. Let your child try these materials before the first day of school, because you don't want the child going into the classroom and he's totally distracted by his cool new pencil case when he's supposed to be getting to know his classmates and learning about his teacher and the new expectations for the coming year. So you want everything to be nice and familiar. The same thing goes for back to school clothing. I remember as a child, my mother would put me in these little plaid dresses for the first day of school. I kind of liked them, although I wasn't a big plaid fan. I wanted flowers. But
I'm going to rat on you at this point. For those of you that don't know, Lindsey has a fabulous Facebook page. And the Facebook page is actually called Raising a Sensory Smart Child. And she has actually posted a picture of herself as a grade school student wearing one of those plaid outfits. So if you haven't seen, okay, now back to our regularly scheduled programming here.
So what you want to do for your child, if your child's sensitive to clothing, you may not want to get a brand new back to school wardrobe. Just take what you know your child accepts and is comfortable in. If you want to pick up some new things, hopefully your child grew a lot over the summer. Launder the clothing quite a bit, more than just one wash cycle, because clothes are now shipping with a lot of sizing, and if they're coming in from overseas, they've been sprayed with insecticides. So you really want to launder stuff well and trim off any itchy threads, take a look at the seams, cut out the labels, give your child seamless socks, really get them comfortable. There are more and more companies out there who are coming out with very sensory-friendly clothing. There's a girlfriend of mine started a company called Terry's Kids, and that's really sensory-friendly clothing. Hannah Anderson is great for very comfortable underwear for boys and girls that they can tolerate real well. So you really want to get your child physically comfortable before school.
Now, let me interrupt you just for a moment, Lindsey. If I remember correctly, don't you have a link to some of these vendors off of your website?
I do. On my website, under helpful websites, I put all of the different clothing companies. Get yourself to a developmental optometrist, get a good vision exam, especially if your child is struggling with reading or other vision-based skills like catching a ball or stringing beads, anything like that, so you want to get that done. If your child's going to school for the first time, or it's a new classroom or a new building, go visit beforehand. Take a tour of the school, take photographs, take a video, so the child knows what to expect when school starts. It just takes away all that anxiety to do that. Also, if your child's going to a new class, if there will be a lot of new students, you may want to set up a play date before school starts again, or early on in the school year, so kids have a chance to really bond. A lot of schools are great about sending a new teacher for a home visit before school starts, and I love when that happens, because that's such a good way for the teacher to learn about your child's interests and challenges and sensory issues. And that's what I want to talk about next.
Oh my gosh, this is an extraordinary list. Is this list available on your website for people that aren't getting all this in one pass?
I'm going to put it up within the next week.
Okay.
It's going to be up in a couple of days. Now, there are schools that don't believe in sensory issues, and that's a problem. So you want to start talking about behavioral, really observable behaviors. My child starts flapping his hands in front of his face when he gets overwhelmed by fluorescent lighting. So when you're working with my child, talk to the ABA person or whatever, when you work with my child, just turn off the fluorescent lights and he'll be so much more able to work with you. Work with the school's OT. Don't assume that every OT out there knows about the sensory piece as well. A lot of OTs are very, very strong with handwriting or even orthopedic kinds of issues, but maybe not so much with sensory processing challenges in the classroom. A child may do great one-on-one, but then put them in a crowded classroom and they may fall apart, and the teacher needs to know that. I have something on my website. I don't know how this is going to show. Can you read that at all? It's called Does Your Student Have Sensory Processing Challenges? And it's a PDF that I have on my website, which is sensorysmarts with an S at the end.com. And it's on the Working with Schools page. And you can download this questionnaire and give it to your child's teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Or give it to your child's OT and teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But it helps people understand that behaviors often have a sensory foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And this will help to get teachers on board. And you want to share this kind of information not just with a classroom teacher, but also the special teachers like the art teacher,
Mm-hmm.
the gym teacher. You want to teach that gym teacher that blowing the whistle
Mm-hmm.
in gym class is not necessarily going to calm your child down
Mm-hmm.
or other children down.
Mm-hmm.
Most often it just hypes them up and gets them into a hypervigilant stage, so it really works against what the gym teacher is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to approach people like the bus driver. I've heard about bus drivers who are trying to be friendly and, give a student, as the student walks on the bus, a nice punch in the arm to wish them a good morning, and they demand a smile or some sort of response. Well, that's not very helpful for a child with tactile issues or just space issues who may be exquisitely sensitive to this kind of insult, really.
Yeah.
So you want to get everybody on board.
I want to give your website again. It's www.sensorysmarts.com. And the things that you're telling us, many of these have been written in your book. We realize this is an evolution beyond the book too. But you have other things on your website that you have compiled some of this knowledge. I know that you have a DVD and a series of articles that will be posted. Could we talk a minute about the DVD and then those articles?
Sure. The DVD started off as an 8-hour webinar that I did with two doctors, Dr. Brock and Dr. Fernette Eide.
Mm-hmm.
They're the co-authors of The Mislabeled Child. He is a primary care physician, and she is a neurologist. So it was wonderful for us all to come together and do this webinar, giving a combination of both the neurological underpinnings of all the sensory processing stuff, as well as my very practical approaches to this. And it's called the Sensory Processing Masterclass. So it's 6 hours of information from 3 people.
The audience for that then would be parents and teachers and OT people.
The audience is quite broad.
Mm-hmm. And then these articles. I know that you write for Autism Asperger Digest magazine from Future Horizons, and some of these are going to be published then at your website?
Yes, I've been writing for them for quite some time, and in 2010 we decided to expand my column. So it's a nice big 2-page column now, and I discuss sensory issues and the connection with behavior, and so that comes out every other month. And I will start to post these articles. I'm also going to be putting other articles on my website from other magazines that I do write for.
Lindsey, I thank you for all of Autism Hangout and all the people outside this community for all the contributions that you're making to help us all learn how to thrive with our kids. I want to give your website address one more time. It's www.sensorysmarts.com. And for those of you looking to send your kids back to school, she just gave this marvelous list. How many points are on that list? 10?
Oh, something like that.
Yeah.
I have quite a bit.
It's just so helpful. And then how to talk to your teachers, how to actually wrap some of this stuff up into an IEP. So I want to thank you again for coming on Autism Hangout. I hope when you come up with something new that you'll give us a call and we can come do this again.
Absolutely.
All right, and thank you. Thank you, Lindsey.
Thank you.
And thank you, Autism Hangout. I'll be back again soon with another Beyond the Headlines.